The journal article that I chose to critique is called Structural Causes of the Global Financial Crisis, a critical assessment of the new financial architecture. The basic information is as follows. The author is James Crotty and the publisher, the Cambridge Journal of Economics. It's volume 33, issue 4, and was published on July 1st, 2009, and includes pages 563 to 580. The problem discussed in the article is the fact that the world is experiencing a terrible financial crisis, and this can be traced back to the cyclic nature of deregulation that is accompanied by rapid financial innovation, which in turn stimulates powerful financial booms that end in crises. The author seeks to shed light on the structural flaws in the financial system that helped bring on the current crisis, and discuss prospects for financial reform. He concludes that the bailouts made by governments around the world only serve to fuel this cycle, since they enlarge the financial markets, which causes their crises to be even more threatening to society, thus leading to even more bailouts, and so on and so forth. And in order to escape this vicious cycle, the economic regime requires reform. The article begins with the historical background information of the financial collapse that occurred in the United States in 1929. Back then, in the article's words, it was almost universally believed that unregulated financial markets are inherently unstable, subject to fraud and manipulation by insiders, and capable of triggering deep economic crises and political and social unrest. To protect the country from these dangers, in the mid-1930s, the U.S. government created a strict financial regulatory system that worked effectively through the 1960s. These actions reflect the ideas of John Maynard Keynes, who theorized that government intervention through economic policy responses could help stabilize an economy. However, economic and financial turbulence in the 1970s and early 1980s led to a shift in policy that dissolved tight financial regulation justified by efficient financial market theory. Today, the deep cause of financial problems all over the world is to be found in the flawed institutions and practices of the current financial regime, often referred to as the New Financial Architecture, or the NFA. According to the article, one problem with the NFA is that it's built on a very weak theoretical foundation, one that is based on light regulation of commercial banks and even lighter regulation of investment banks. The agenda of the NFA is one that in of itself generates excessive risk and crises. This risk-taking can be traced back to the ability of giant banks to measure their own risks and set their own capital requirements. In conclusion, the article asserts that the past quarter century of deregulation and the globalization of financial markets, combined with the rapid pace of financial innovation and the moral hazard caused by frequent government bailouts, helped create conditions that led to this devastating financial crisis. Governments face the challenge of stopping the financial crisis in the short run, while in the long run diminishing financial markets. I found the article to be very clear, concise, and well written. It followed a simple, linear form of argument that effectively went from explaining the issue in full, from its background to its application today, and then on to a possible solution. It simply stated that the world is at a financial crisis, and this is because of the nature of the financial regime, which can be reformed to better avoid these financial catastrophes. The title of the article perfectly captured the author's agenda, while the abstract, introduction, and conclusion stuck to the basic points of the article and clearly put forth their response. One compliment I would give to the article is how it never once strayed from its claims or went on a confusing tangent. It also appropriately used the example of Keynesian economics and its use in the United States in the time period following the stock market crash of 1929. However, it did tend to lean towards praising Keynesianism and leaving out its shortcomings. One of another perspective might view the theory as placing too much trust in the government to facilitate the economy, since the government could end up making matters worse. The author holds the underlying assumptions that government regulation is necessary to avoid financial crises, when one could argue that the government's dabbling could in fact cause these to occur. Because of this underlying bias that the author holds, the paper is in fact subtly subjective. Overall, though, I still think the article was well done and worthy of respect. And that concludes my article critique.